So how does that tie in today's lesson? Well, what we're doing today is we are trying to find all of the real solutions, but we're kind of given a head start. We're given one of the solutions, and in this case, we're given x is equal to -1, and we're trying to figure out the other two solutions because this is cubic, and I'm going to tell you if you find one, then there's going to be two other ones, and in this Algebra 2 class, you're looking for real answers. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this solution and we're going to write it as a factor. That's kind of step number one, okay? So you're going to want to highlight that for sure. Maybe draw an arrow. So if you know that x is equal to -1, then you can say what the factor is. Well, that factor is the left-hand side of your box, because what you're going to do, if this is a factor, that means that it is divisible into what you're trying to solve. So if you factor or divide by x plus 1, then this whole top section up here is going to wind up helping you find the other two solutions. So if you can just look at it, I'm not going to work it out. It's already worked out for you. But if I just kind of work backwards using division, I find that the other factor is x squared minus 9x plus 20. Now you can just simply factor this one again. You can either use the Xbox traditional method or you can use the Xbox with the box method. It doesn't matter to me. Since your A is 1, you can simply just use the -4 and the -5 to factor it over here. It doesn't matter to me how you do it. So the whole point to that is we're starting with this cubic equation, right? It gives you one of the solutions. So what you do, if x equals 1, you write x plus 1 as a factor. You have to use the box method to find the other factor, which is factorable again. So now I have that x plus 1 that was given to me, and now I have the new factors here. And if you have all of these factors set equal to 0, you can use the zero product property, set them all equal to 0. You can do this part in your head. And then it'll be -1, which you already knew. So that's not new, but you found the 4 and you found the 5. So let me get into one so you can write it down and truly understand this whole process. So this question set up a little differently than the last one. Instead of giving a solution, it gives me a factor. If I know x plus 2 is a factor, then I can immediately state that x is equal to -2 is a solution. So I already have one of those solutions. But for me to find the other two solutions, I need to take this factor, this x plus 2, okay, and then I need to start dividing into that, okay? Because that's the whole point. I need to figure out kind of what's left over. So I'm going to start with my lead term, which is x to the third, and I'm going to work backwards. So x times x squared gives me x to the third power. If I know this, then I can multiply here and get 2x squared. Okay, draw another box. I'm leaving this open because I don't know how long the box is going to be. Highlighter time. Diagonals have to add up to what I'm dividing into. So my quadratic term is 1x squared. So I have to put the term here that adds to make 1x squared. So it's going to wind up being -1x squared. Double check it. Yes, it works. Work backwards. So x times -1x, and then multiply these two together. So it'll be -2x. Highlighter time. So I'm going to do, let's see, what plus -2 gives me -14. So that's going to be -12x. Work backwards. So -12. Now, if you've done everything right, because since it's a factor, you should not get a remainder. So if you get a remainder, something's wrong. So it's going to be -24, and that's a check. So everything looks good. So basically what I have here is that I know if I multiply x plus 2 times this, I'm going to get exactly what I'm trying to solve. So I'm going to write it x plus 2 times x squared minus 1x minus 12, and all of this is going to be equal to 0 because I want it to be equal to 0 to be able to solve it. Now I already know that that's going to wind up being -2, okay? But the problem is that this isn't broken down enough for me to find the solution. So I need to factor this again. So I'm going to factor it using the x because it's a trinomial. So the factors of negative 12 that add up to be negative 1, that's going to be negative 4 and positive 3. If you want to do the box method, that's fine. But if you have an a that is negative 1, you can just simply write the factors x minus 4 and x plus 3. Okay, so I've already got this one finished. I'm going to go ahead and in my head say, well, if my factor is x minus 4, then my solution will be positive 4. And once again here, work backwards. That's my other solution. So I have a total of the one that they gave me in the question, and then the other two that I found using division and factoring. All right, so question number 3 is similar to the one at the top of the page. It gives me a solution. So the solution is helpful, but I do need to change it into a factor. The factor is what I'm going to use to divide into that cubic equation here. So this is x plus 5. And I'm going to plug in my first term here and work backwards. So x times x squared is x to the third, multiply times 5, and then highlighter time, my diagonal has to add up to be 2x squared. So 5 and negative 3 makes positive 2. Work backwards. Multiply. And then I'm going to have to add my diagonals one more time. That's going to be, let's see, I got to think, 2x. I always just kind of double check when I'm working it out. Yes, that does add up to be negative 13. Work backwards, 2. 5 times 2 is 10. That does work. If that's not the same number here, something is wrong. Because the whole point of this is that you're given a solution, you're given a factor, you should have no remainder when you divide. Okay, so right now I have my original x plus 5, and I know that the other factor is now x squared minus 3x plus 2. Everything is equal to 0. I already knew that negative 5 was the solution, so that's already one answer. And then I need to factor this to find the other two. So I need to find the factors of 2 that add up to be negative 3. And they're going to wind up being negative 1 and negative 2. So x minus 1, x minus 2. Okay, I don't need to do the box because I'm not multiplying by anything other than 1, because a is equal to 1 here. And then I can just work backwards, x equals 1 and x equals 2. So I should have 1, 2, 3 solutions in total. All right, so if you're feeling confident, go ahead and pause the video, work out number 4. 4 is very much like number 2. Kind of gives you a head start because it gives you the factor instead of the solution. Okay, so here is what we're going to do. We're going to take this x minus 4, since I know it's a factor. I'm going to divide that into my cubic equation. Just take a while to set it up. Okay, I'm going to put x cubed here, and then I'm going to work backwards. I have to be careful to add to make sure that everything adds up to what I'm dividing into. So that's going to be negative 1x, and then that's 4x. These have to add up to be negative 2x. Okay, backwards again, and as long as we've done everything correct, look at that, it matches up. Okay, so what this tells me is that x minus 4 times x squared minus 1x minus 6 is equal to 0. That should be equivalent to what I started with right here, x to the third power. I already know that x is equal to 4 because it already gave me that clue. So if I just come over here and simply figure out the factors of negative 6, that add up to be negative 1, which is negative 3 and positive 2. I can find my other two solutions. Now, sometimes your solutions can repeat. Remember, we have repeated None of these were repeated, and then that's okay too. If you wanted to check your answers, you can go to Desmos and you can type in the function. Make sure you type in y or f of x. Don't type in 0 because it won't show you the shape. And then the graph is going to cross over at 4, 3, and -2. So you can check yourself. Let's talk about the homework. So the homework is in your textbook on page 153. Regular students, you are going to do odds only. This is for regulars. But if you're in the honors class, you will be doing all of these problems. I have given you the first solution of each equation. You're going to have to change that into a factor. So question number 17, the first solution to that one is -5, which means that your factor would be x plus 5. Your book does not give you these kind of problems, and that's an issue because it is definitely going to be on your end of course, and we got to prep you for that test at the end of the year. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Go ahead and start working on your homework.